I started noticing that I was getting pain in my joints, like my knee joint, which was an old injury, my elbow. So I couldn't lift as heavy in my training. And what else happened? Oh, yeah, I noticed I started to feel like I was getting older every day. I started seeing little lines popping up on my face. I saw two moles suddenly appeared on my body.
Jan, how did you find carnivore?
Well, I've been flirting with carnivore for a long, long time. It started back in 78. I read about a diet that you could just eat all the meat you wanted to and lose weight. So I decided I was going for an interview and having to travel a long time on a train. And so I thought I packed myself full of meat, and it was probably most like processed meat, and didn't take any money with me, just my train tickets. So I had no choice but to eat meat all day long. And I got back home, had a terrible tummy ache, and but I kept on in a sense that I knew bread was bad for me, so I always went a little bit low carb all my life. I hated my mother's Wonder bread, which was white sliced bread. So I was always going to get the health food bread for her. And I gave up sugar in my tea when I was 13 years old. So I've always instinctively known to keep away or try to. It didn't always work. I mean, I probably only had two or three Coca-Colas in my life. As a consequence, I decided to train as a holistic health practitioner, and I was also trained I had to train myself in nutrition because the nutrition training at that time was pretty non-existent. As you know, doctors only had a few hours of training at that time too, and I think they still only have a few hours. And I started having my own practice doing reflexology and aromatherapy back in 1982 in the UK. And because it was a home visiting practice, I had a lot of people who were in wheelchairs with MS and arthritis. So my first instinct was to look at nutrition. And I was always I'd already read a lot about fasting. I'd already tried myself fasting and found it to be beneficial. So I would ask them the first session I would have with them, as well as doing the treatment on them, I would also ask them to write down everything that they ate and drank for the following week. And then the next week, I would look and see what they had eaten and drank. And then I could see very clearly what they should cut out. And it was mostly grains I took off their diet straight away. Sometimes, if people had a skin conditions, I did try to get them on elimination diets. And I always had them fasting 1 day a week. The result was I had a lot of very happy customers. And so I documented all this. And I was a regular on BBC Radio back then. And I do have a couple of, I did put them on my YouTube channel deliberately so people can see that what I'm saying is true. I wish I'd known more about the meat aspect as opposed to just cutting out bread and processed foods. But we did what we did at that time. So with myself, I basically was in and out, I would say in and out of keto, although we didn't call it keto in that time. So I discovered again, I was in my late 20s, I was feeling very tired. I was pretty well eating a lot of vegetarian food mainly, not too much meat. And I somebody suggested that I had bacon and eggs in the morning for breakfast. So I went to I ate out a lot then. So I had bacon and eggs, and it was in Canada at this time. So the bacon and eggs there, they usually give 3 eggs, loads of bacon, a couple of sausages, a whole pile of potatoes and bread. So I said, well, can you keep off the potatoes and take away the bread and just give me the eggs and bacon and sausage? And that's what I did. And I pretty well, not 3 eggs, but I went back to saying having 1 egg and some bacon. But it was like a light switch went on in my brain. I had energy immediately. And so again, I've been in and out. I've had times of stress when I've gone into the high carb uh, For example, in my own personal journey recently, when I moved to the Netherlands, I moved from Canada, and my mother was sick in the UK. So I was doing a lot of traveling, spending 2 weeks in England, 2 weeks in the Netherlands, still going back to Canada because I had my business there. So it was a lot of time on the plane, on the train, and I was starting to buy a lot of, like tuna sandwiches, packets of crisps, and my weight went up to probably the highest it's ever been of 185 pounds. Um, and I started feeling pretty lousy, of course. But I was on the road a lot, and I was also stressed. So the cortisol as well was high. And finally, my mother did pass away in 2015. And in 2016, I was finally able to settle full time in the Netherlands. And that took me basically to be able to say, right, I'm going to look after me. And I took myself to the gym every day and got into the bodybuilding kind of training, um, which meant, of course, they want you to do, I had a personal trainer then, and they want you to do high protein, count your macros. So I pretty well went into a ketone type diet, but I was having a lot of the protein drinks, whey protein drinks as well, which caused a lot of problem with my digestion. So I think I must have had irritable bowel syndrome at that time as well. Although the weight did come off, and I, you know, I was progressing, so that was good. But something was missing. And around the time of the lockdown, I decided, I don't know why, I think I had too many friends who were vegetarian. I decided to go vegetarian. I thought perhaps that's the missing puzzle. So I went vegetarian. Immediately, my weight went up half a stone, which is 7 pounds, immediately. Um, and I started noticing, I really enjoyed having all this fruit and all these bananas and all this papaya and spinach in my curries. Yeah, it was delicious. But I didn't feel so. I thought I was okay at the beginning, and then I started noticing that I was getting pain in my joints, like my knee joint, which was an old injury, my elbow, so I couldn't lift as heavy in my training. And what else happened? Oh yeah, I noticed I started to feel like I was getting older every day. I started seeing little lines popping up on my face. I saw two moles suddenly appeared on my body, and one of them looked pretty bad. And I was not going to go to the doctor about this. I started putting my own remedies on. Um, so I was kind of concerned. So I stuck it out for just over a year. And then I thought, no, okay, I'm back to keto, back to where I was before, and put myself on a fast for about 3 days. I think it was 4 days actually. And then got myself just to reset my body and then clear out the junk. And then I went straight back into what I was doing before. And immediately I was able to, the two moles that started to, that had appeared, and were going, one was going looking quite nasty. I was able to actually pick it off, and the skin has been fine underneath ever since. So both of them have gone. The pain in my joints started going away, and now they've gone away completely. And around that time in lockdown, I was also looking at a lot of broadcasters like Jordan Peterson. So carnivore started to make little inroads. I kept hearing it and hearing it. And I started to say, and my trainer was always saying, you should eat more meat. You're not eating enough meat. Your protein macros are down. I was eating a lot of fat because I was doing keto, but not enough meat. My carbs were under 50 gram. So I was like, okay, let's start adding a little bit more meat in. So I added,
And
yeah.
so, sorry to interrupt, but was this starting to bring you back to like 1978 and feeling like, oh, well, this did work before?
I well, I remember the bacon and eggs syndrome when I was having bacon and eggs
Mm.
every morning and things like that. And I did remember I used to go out a lot in the late 70s. Boyfriends would always take me out. We'd go to it was a place called the Burney Inns in the UK. I don't know if you're aware of them. There's basically steakhouses. So most nights I was going out and having a steak and salad without the bread, and I felt really good. And they also did coffee with double cream on top, whipped cream on top, without, and you could do it without the sugar. So, and the weight didn't, I didn't put weight on or anything like that. So I did have a kind of lifestyle like that at one point. So I started adding steak to just having steak for dinner, no salad, and I thought, okay, that's okay, that's all right. I'm getting going back there again. And then I think about 4 months ago now, I think it was about 4 months, I thought, what would happen if I had a steak for breakfast? Now, I don't eat before 12, so my breakfast is after 12. So I started deciding to add a steak for breakfast. My husband looked at me, gone out, like, what are you doing? You're looking like a cowboy from America eating a big steak for breakfast. So I was having then a steak for breakfast and either a burger and a steak or a steak for dinner. And I was also having whole yogurt as well, just plain yogurt. Not much else really. And what we noticed, one of the biggest things started noticing, well, my trainer started noticing, is that all of a sudden, instead of lifting, say, 35 kilograms, I could suddenly add a few kilograms on everywhere. And it's literally now, it's going up like that week by week. I mean, he's excited when he sees me. It's like, okay, we can start from last time and add on some more weight. So that's kind of got me excited as well. I'm not going into bodybuilding, but I mean, I wanted to build up some muscle because at my age, you do need to have muscle as you're going into your older age. And yeah, so it's a journey that I'm now. Oh, of course, I started adding eggs then to my steak as well. So now I have steak and two eggs for breakfast most mornings, most lunchtimes rather. And yeah, so I mean, I've always been aware of what I've been putting inside myself, and I've also that's where I come with my YouTube channel. I'm always looking at what goes on the skin because the skin also absorbs products too. So where you're looking at what goes in, I've also been educating people on what they're putting on their skin themselves as well to educate them so they don't hurt themselves that way as well. So that's my story.
So you're eating twice a day.
I'm eating 3
Um,
times a day, so
oh,
mostly
3 times.
two meals, and then I have a snack of, say, cheese or if I feel
Ah,
like it.
okay.
But I'm becoming less
Mm.
and less that I need it now. I'm finding that once I've had my breakfast, all of a sudden it's dinner time, and sometimes I'm even now, I found a really nice, a farm here that does grass-fed meat, and I just received a huge order of because you can't get roast beef here in the supermarkets. It's all rollade, which is all with herbs and things. And so I'm cooking the roast beef, and so I'm starting to nibble on that in the morning, and then at nighttime have my main meal as well. And it's a grass-fed Black Angus cow, I think, that they have here, and yeah, very healthy.
And so you mentioned your husband. Is he joining you in this, or is he kind of just staying by the sidelines?
He's staying by the sidelines. He likes his meat, but he likes his potatoes and his vegetable. Well, he doesn't like the vegetables, but he does like his meat. He thinks he should have vegetables. He's very concerned why I won't have any vegetables. And he loves his bread. It's typical Dutch diet that he likes. At the moment, we've got here what they call oily balls, which are like big, huge donuts. They were invented here, and they put in this horrible fat. And so he comes home with a whole pile of them every week. And I'm going, I keep them away from me. I don't even want them. I'm not even tempted with those sort of things. So he's very much completely um, opposite in nutrition aspect to myself.
In total now, how long is the time you've been going to the gym and working out with the personal trainer?
6 years.
6 years.
Mhm.
And it's in the last 4 months that you've really noticed that the muscle has taken off?
As soon as I started having steak for breakfast, that was the turning point, literally. upping my meat. He still thinks I could up my protein because he's asked me to check my macros. Um, I mean, I'm only training with him once a week because also teach Pilates 4 nights a week. Um, but yeah, for but the with just even once a week, it's going up now. And as I said, the turning point was definitely the extra was a steak. So I'm still below what I still think I could add more protein to my daily routine to get the
Do you
maximum.
do you have a feeling about whether, like, the satiation and the help with the muscle building and that kind of thing, do you have a kind of a feeling or a sense of, like, it's the fat or it's the protein or it's a combination of the 2?
I think it's a combination of the two. I started off doing a few years back. I started with a bulletproof proof. That was my breakfast in the morning. So I would have sometimes butter, sometimes in my coffee, or I would have the coconut, my MCT oil in my coffee. And it was definitely that made me satiated for most of the day, for sure. So fat is definitely you. I think you definitely need to have fat in your diet. Just having lean meat is not enough. And they say that when you go out and if you're going hunting, you can't live on rabbits. There's just not enough fat in the rabbits to keep yourself for a long period of time. So definitely, I mean, I've always, all my life, I've always loaded butter into my food. I've never gone into this margarine phase at all. I've always said, "Oh no, butter's good for you," and I will still, on my steak, slather the butter on my steak, cook it. I fold the eggs into butter, basically. So I'm eating quite a bit of fat, but I'm not overdoing it like I was on keto when I was having fat bombs.
Do you feel there's a big difference, whether it's in, um, the way you feel, satiation, mental clarity, anything like that, between when you've been on keto in the past and when you're doing this now?
I felt on keto, there was a missing link. I didn't feel, I felt good, and certainly I could do everything. I didn't have any aches and pains or anything else. I mean, I'm teaching Pilates to 20 odd 30-year-olds, and I'm teaching them. Um, but and brain, I've never had any brain fog per se. Uh, but the the meat has definitely made a difference. It's been like that missing link that for some reason I was really frightened. Everything was being said about how bad meat was for years, and so I kind of bought into that. So I always sort of, okay, you're having a steak, I'll have half the steak and things like that. So I never had enough meat. And meat is I had protein from lentils and things like that, but it's very hard to get the correct protein and nutrition from plants, as far as I can see.
I guess the thing as well with the plants is you don't know just how much you're absorbing because you've got all the issue of the anti-nutrients and stuff, right?
hmm
Mm.
Well, I mean, this thing with the spinach, I was piling when I was doing my vegetarian phase. I was making curries every night and piling loads of spinach into my curries. Never done that before. And it's different type of iron completely from the iron that you get from meat. So your body isn't absorbing it the same way. Certainly, I was getting I constantly felt like during the vegetarian phase, I felt like I was constantly having a grittiness behind my eyes. And now that's just lifted, I'd say, in the last month, the feeling of something that wasn't quite, something that needed to clear. Oh, and I went through, by the way, just for everybody to know, with the carnivore. Oh, my digestion is a lot better now. It's still a little bit, but iffy. But most on the whole, it's on the up and up. But I did have, when I started the carnivore, I did have the whole thing happening with the poop and everything for a little while. So that was just To my mind, that's just a cleansing process. I've always noticed that when I've been fasting, my skin would break out. I'd feel awful for a couple of days, and then I'd feel great. So my go-to has always been fasting, anyways, um, if I needed to. So if I feel like I'm getting, yeah, I was getting feeling a very acidic on the keto diet a little bit as well. Whereas that's gone away with upping the meat and doing less of the Philadelphia cheese type stuff. So I definitely know that I can't eat too much cheese and cream cheese and things like that. But everyone's different, so they have to find their own.
What do other people think about this? Like, you know, do people in the Pilates classes that you're teaching, do they know about this? Do they ever see you getting into a steak or anything?
No, no. But my trainer, he's very much into the macros and what have you, and he's been following my journey, of course. I've been training with him for 6 years, and so he's very excited, and so he started now looking more and more into that and reading more about it. So now I think he's gearing more towards that himself now, because he can see the results. And I will, if anybody asks me, "Are you looking good?" or anything like that. I've always said I was doing keto before, basically, and then I was doing keto carnivore, but I didn't say it like that. I was just saying I've upped my meat level. I needed to, and I've cut out. I just don't eat bread, and I always have been anti bread and anti grains pretty well all my life. I still ate it. Oh, just after I started going more carnivore, I went to a party, and unfortunately, at the party, there was pizza, there was vegetables, there was salads, there was bread, and there wasn't anything else to eat. And the the company was good, and I started eating. I only ate whatever anybody else ate. I didn't overeat. The next day, I had like a hangover from hell after that. So that was really the showed me that okay, you just got to stay away from that. So
It's amazing how sensitive your body is to just that little bit.
mhm.
Once you get rid of it, one and then bring it back, it's just your body's like, "No, no, no, we're not having this again."
No, no, I just can't, and I don't want to. I like feeling good, and I want to be teaching Pilates when I'm 85 years old. I enjoy being fit and well, and being able to do my work as well. I don't plan to retire, and I've got lots of things to do.
And do you mind me asking how old you are, Jen?
I'm going to be 64 in 2 weeks.
Wow. Yeah, you're looking very good.
Thanks.
Yeah. Um, so, I mean, you must also get that from other people, no? Like people saying, how good your skin looks and,
Yeah, I've had that all my
you
life.
don't look like a 64-year-old.
Well, I've always taken care of my skin. Again, just like with my diet, I always made sure that I've been making my own products since the late 80s, and I teach people how to make their own products. And I've never used soap on my face, for example, ever. Well, probably once, twice since I started the journey. Since I was 18, I haven't used soap on my face, and so that has been always, also it does affect. I've always fasted periodically. Every year I've always gone on a 10-day fast, and I found that that really helps. It resets your mind. It also resets your gut. It cleans things out. um, like I say, your body goes into autophagy. I don't know if I'm saying that word right. Autophagy. And people always say at the end of a 10-day fast, "Oh, you look fantastic. What have you done?" My mission with carnivore is, what I want to do is bring it into, in my YouTube videos myself. I've been talking about what people put on the skin, but I've also been doing videos on a combination, because I think we have to combine everything we put in as well as what everything we put on our skin. And because the skin is the largest organ in the body, and but I'm doing in baby steps with people. So I would like to do a video where we just get people going into baby step ways. For example, if I just say to people, okay, just eat meat and you'll be great, there's going to be blank. Nobody's going to follow it. Um, I remember once I had a customer who came to me for reflexology treatments, and she said immediately, I'm not going to buy anything from you. I don't want anything else. I don't want to do anything. I just want to have my treatments. So at the end of the treatment, I said to her, could you just do me one favor? Can you just have one glass of water? She wasn't drinking any water a day, one glass of water a day. She said, oh, I think I can just about manage that. She was a mess. She was physically and mentally a mess. So she came back the following week and said, Jan, I feel much better. So I said, okay, can you have 2 glasses of water a day? So she started having 2 glasses of water a day. She started feeling better. Within a couple of months, she was doing the whole diet change that I suggested to her. She was putting everything on her skin that I suggested to her. She looked amazing. She lost weight. Her health improved. She came looking like a bag lady, and her skin improved, her hair improved, everything improved. So that's my philosophy: is to kind of push people in, not push people, but let people come and see the results for themselves. Start by just making little changes, start to see the improvement, and then they can, as they get more confidence in the whole process, then they can start saying, right, I'm going to try, like I did. I said, okay, I'm going to have a steak for dinner, just a steak, no vegetables. Then I'm going to have a steak for breakfast. Okay, now I'm going to have a steak and 2 eggs. Oh, I feel even better. And it's a gradual process for some people. Just to jump in is not most, as I said, you just get this blank look and you go, I can't do that.
You get the, "Oh, I could never give up my bread," or "I could never give up my
Yeah,
cereal," and all this kind of
I
thing,
get that
right?
with my students. I mean, I said with one class a couple of years ago now, I said, why don't we do a challenge for a week of no bread for a week? Oh, no, 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 nobody was going to go for that. So I've kind of backed off from that at the moment. All I can do is go by example. And when people ask, I say, what do you do? I say, look, this is what I'm doing and it's working for me.
Mm.
And if they want it, but there's, of course, there's so much backlash. I mean, I get it. I don't go into a party and say I'm carnivore or anything like that. I just nicely eat the meat part or the fat part, and then if people ask, I say, oh, I don't feel like the other stuff right now. So
I always play the allergies card. If
yeah.
I'm allergic to so many things. I just have plain food, and then
Mhm.
when you say allergies, people are like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna back off, no pressure," kind of thing.
Yeah, I usually say I react to bread anyway,
Mhm, mm.
and I don't try to give them lectures or anything like that.
So, you mentioned that the roast beef is kind of a little bit different in the Netherlands, um, with kind of herbs and things like that. So, like, how easy is it to get what you need there just from, like, the supermarket or,
Very
to
hard.
eat out, for example?
It's very hard. They don't sell liver in the main supermarket stores here. In fact, nobody really buys liver. It needs liver here. It doesn't seem like. So I had to go to specialty stores or go to the farms or order it specifically. The roast beef that they sell, in fact, the meat sections are very low in the Netherlands. They tend to be pushing more everything else, vegetarian replacements. That's what I'm seeing more and more. Um, or vegan alternative to meats. What I am, so I had to look for organic farms that I could buy from, and they're doing a lot of deliveries now. So they freeze everything and then deliver. So roast beef, to buy roast beef in a supermarket here is impossible. I haven't found it yet for sale. They sell things as what they call rollade, and it's very flavored, and I suspect a lot of etc., in them. So I don't like them, and so I literally am ordering like unfortunately I've got a big freezer, and I just order a whole pile of 400-gram roast beef things at a time that packed like that, and then my steaks and liver, of course, calf's liver. I always have calf's liver every week anyway. I've been doing that for a long time, except when I was in my vegetarian stage. I love to cook it in butter and put a little bit of salt on, and I make usually a big amount. The idea of keeping it a little bit back, 'cause I like eating it just as it is afterwards the next day, cold. But I've always apparently my mother said one of my first main foods that she served me with when I was a baby, when she first made, she used to mash up liver, calf's liver with vegetables. That was my first meal. Actually, it was just calf's liver she used to mash up for me. So I must have had the taste right away. That was one of my first meals. But a lot of
Wow.
people here can't stand liver.
It's interesting. It's very, very cultural thing, right? Just the
Hmm.
meat in general in the Netherlands. I didn't realize it'd gone kind of swung that kind of, I guess, plant-based.
Well, I'm also a little bit pissed off. Every time you do see steaks for sale, and there's not too many for sale in the supermarket. I'm talking about the main supermarkets here, Albert Heijn and Jumbo. They're the main ones, like Tesco's. Um, they're all bought in from Argentina, and where Netherlands is the has the most cows in Europe, and they're importing the meat from South America.
And then they'll be saying it's bad for the environment,
Yeah, so they're trying to kill
you
off
know,
all the cows here.
emissions.
Yeah, they're trying to close a lot of farms down here. So I don't want to buy from South America. I would rather buy locally and help the farmers here. And I said, this particular farm, there's quite a few actually around. There's also ostrich farms. There's camel farms. There's all sorts of. We can get raw milk from camels, for example. Um, so there it is there when people want to buy it. But for the common people, not common people, people who don't know, all they see is what's at the supermarket. So they just buy the stuff from South America if they're going to eat meat. And as I said, the other stuff that they have is so full of preservatives and I don't want to put that shit, excuse my language, in my body.
What's the climate like there as far as, how are the farmers feeling? They must be feeling pretty marginalized, no?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of I haven't got involved with the movement here because my Dutch is not that good. Trying, but it's very bad. But there is a big movement here for people who don't want to be closed down. It's pretty nasty at the moment, the way it is going. I haven't spoken to many farmers here, um, but there is a battle going on for sure. The same as
Yeah.
anywhere else, the same as in Canada as well, the same problem there. I know a lot of people because I lived in Alberta for a little while, so I know some ranchers there as well, and it's a fight.
It's so frustrating watching this kind of stuff because it does feel like it's when you talk about the importing the meat when, there's more than enough produced locally,
Yeah,
it just seems like virtue signaling.
yeah, yes, it is. I was kind of horrified. I'm going, for just a minute, they're upset about the amount of cows here and farting and everything else that the cows are doing. And yet they're importing all this stuff, and we've got everything here, and they're exporting all their meat from the farms here. So it doesn't it doesn't make sense at all. The world's gone crazy.
Mm. It definitely, seems that way, yeah. So, just back to you personally, I've got um, a very kind of a question I really wanted to ask you when you talked about the fasting. Um, you did these 10-day fasts. I know when I've done a 48-hour fast, which is the highest I've ever gone to, kind of about 36 hours, that's when I start to feel really good. You
Hmm.
know, I think you get a bit of cortisol kick that's kind of telling you go and find some food, things like that. When you're doing a 10-day fast, at what point, when's the kind of the high point and when's the low point?
Okay, I say the third day is when I really start feeling good, and also I feel like I can go on forever. And I'm not hungry. I can do everything. And actually, my weight training and everything is usually really good during that time. My trainer's always been kind of like, what's going on here? Um, and so everything is good. And then around day 8 and 9 is when I start getting hungry. And then that's when I have to start, eating well again, like adding little bits in. And in the past, in years gone by, I've often just gone straight back into my old diet or whatever, and that's not been good. But now I'm easier at using it just as a reset, and it doesn't have to be 10 days. But I notice a definite, if I've say put on a little bit of weight, like my weight will vary by 10 pounds. It's not never been more really, except when I went into massive carbs. Um, but I can quickly lose that 10 pounds within 10 days and it stays off. It's not like it's a yo-yo thing. So I don't do it for weight loss anyway, but I noticed that it just gets rid of I think just gets rid of the inflammation in my body. Everything cleans up my, any circles. If I get any baggy, my skin gets clearer. I break out first of all. I usually always get a headache the next day because because I drink coffee, and not too much, but I drink coffee. So I always get the coffee headache thing the next day. And my energy goes down, and that's the second day. And I know what it is. It's just my body. And I feel like my liver is just like throwing everything. My body goes, okay, hee hoo, let's throw everything out here. It's like, oh, great, she's going for it. And the cellular regrowth, like I notice my nails, my hair always grows better afterwards. So I mean, the best anti-age trick, the best if people want to have an anti-age trick for for the skin, is to go on a fast for a few days, at least once a year. It does wonders. And
Yeah.
meat, I think, is I told my husband I'm meat fasting. That's what I've been saying to him, fasting on meat, because it does similar effects. You're
Yeah.
kind of fasting if you just eat meat and no eggs even, and just do the meat. You're kind of fasting in a way, because your
Mm.
body is absorbing right everything really at the beginning of your digestion. So your whole lower digestive tract is having a break, having a holiday.
You mentioned before you want to be teaching Pilates into your 80s.
Hmm.
How are you feeling about stuff like that now? Are you kind of the last 4 months you've seen, things you're feeling better. Are you also kind of feeling like the future's brighter? Has it opened up the future for you?
Well, I never felt sorry. Um, in the Pilates, that never went down for me because I was practicing even during lockdown. I actually taught online. So I always kept going with it. And I'm always pushing myself to try and stand on two hands and do all sorts of using the body weight. In fact, I never stopped training at all during lockdown, where my trainer would sneak me into the gym anyway. Um, but the trick is for me is training. I have people from the age of, I would say, 30s to 78 is my oldest customer in my Pilates classes. And I have classes of about 15, 16 people. And my thing is I'm trying to teach them how basically to get off the ground without using their hands, without using their knees, things like that. So I'm doing a lot of, uh, I would say, rehabilitation type Pilates. And so, for example, strengthening the front of your legs so you're not going to fall over so easily. Things that are going to help from that aspect. So, you've got your nutrition aspect, but you've also got keeping your body mobile, flexible, keeping your core strong. Um, as I said, I like strength. So what I do, I add bands into my class that people are doing some form of strength training in the Pilates as well. And I've had, some of my clients, like there's a guy in his 70s, he started my Pilates classes and he'd gone to a Pilates camp. And a year later, he went back to the Pilates camp and they said he'd improved quite a bit from the year before. So it's the mobility people who've gone through. I've got people who've gone through knee replacements and things like that. I mean, I started as a therapist, so basically, I'm including a little bit of therapy in my training. It's not just a exercise class that people are going to. But also,
Yeah.
it's good for me too because it keeps me on my toes. Okay, I've got to be able to do this too because if I can't show them how to do it, then that's no good either.
Mm. It's good that you're able to bring all the skills in to help people as well, you know?
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I love doing it. It's not a money maker. It's not something I do for money. It's purely something I do because I enjoy doing it, and I miss teaching face to face with people. I'm doing a lot of online teaching, but it's not the same as what I used to. Because I used to have a school of holistic studies, so I used to have classes all the time, and I miss that since I came to the Netherlands. So this is my way of kind of keeping up with that. So I mean, my one of my customers, he's also in his 70s. He comes to my client, he's 73, and he's really healthy. He's always sending me, oh, what about this? What about that? And he's getting now a little bit into the carnivore now because we talk all the time. And he said, oh, how long are you going to teach for? I said, well, 80, 90, 100, whatever. And I don't see why not.
I first heard about Pilates in the early 90s.
Hmm.
But I've never been to or seen a Pilates class. So my image of Pilates is probably not correct. My image of Pilates is that it's somewhat like yoga. Am I completely way off?
No, no, it is. It has a lot of yoga in it, but it's working. A lot of yoga is fixed, unfortunately. So you don't have you follow a series, so it doesn't take into account the different bodies types and the different conditions that people might have. And also, you've got the praying to whatever the guru. Um, so you don't have any of that. But Pilates is basically about the strong core. So working on building up inside. So you don't see externally, but you see inside your internal body. It gives a nice waistline for sure. Um, but it's also about being able to flexibility of the spine. So Pilates basically said that you're only as young as the flexibility of your spine. So we do a lot of stretching, and some people use the Pilates class as a precursor before they do another class. So they might then go weight training afterwards, after the Pilates class. What it does, it helps the body work better for whatever you're doing afterwards. But it's also by itself really good. I just love doing it. I feel good afterwards. You stretch to hell and you feel stronger, but I still find I like to do my weight training at least once a week to really push it. So I do the old fashioned where you do the bench press, you do the deadlifts, you do the full squats with weight on your back and things like that. I just love that. My body seems to like it too.
Um, so Jan, could you talk a little bit more about your channel and where people
Yeah,
could find it?
yeah. Well, it's called the Aroma Shop with two P's and an E, so it's the old fashioned shoppy, and it's basically a channel that is teaching people how to. So also, like I was talking about talcum powder recently, about the dangers of that and why it's in so much makeup, for example. I also I was making because my fun side, I like to make products, of course, and I like to make makeup. I love to do it. It's like creating a picture. And I was creating makeup for a company in the Netherlands and making it for them as private label. And then she decided she didn't want to sell it anymore. So 2 years ago, I said, "Can I buy it off you, the company?" So now I have a Dutch company called Pervez, which I sell the finished makeup. And I'm starting to sell it all around the world. And makeup is great because you can just pop it in a small envelope and it goes out as they call it brievenbuspakia here, which means it's letter mail. So it goes off for like €3. And and again, I'm basically doing the same principle: no talcum powder, no bad ingredients. But the channel started off basically as a teaching channel to help people, and there's recipes in there so people can make their own. And then I have a website that I sell the raw ingredients that people can get them. So I sell still a lot. I have a lot of customers in Canada and the USA that I sell to, and in Australia. I had a lot of Japanese students too in Canada at one point. So I do sell some to Japan. And the hard to get sort of stuff that you can't normally get. So natural emulsifiers and natural preservatives that won't hurt your gut, basically, because you don't want to be putting preservatives in a lipstick and then eating it because it's going to hurt your own gut, basically. So that's what my channel inherently is about. It's sort of incorporated now how to put on makeup now because people were asking for it. It's not a very big channel. I don't have that many subscribers yet, but as I said, I have done videos in the past and I want to do videos in the future of combining like half-hour videos, say, for example, of quick things for people with, say, rosacea or allergy-prone skin, because that's really an epidemic at the moment. People have a lot of inflamed skin conditions. So how they can help it internally. So we look at the carnivore aspects, and then how to help it externally, and also how they can use the mineral makeup to help cover it in the meantime until it heals from inside. So you can kind of get it from both angles. So, for example, in mineral makeup, we can put zinc oxide in, which helps to calm the skin down. So it helps people who have there's so many people who have problems. They don't even want to leave the house because they've got so many breakouts. And the doctors don't, even the dermatologists, all they want to do is prescribe cortisone creams and things like that,
Yeah.
which
Put a
problem
steroid
works.
on it, you'll be fine.
Yeah. And it makes the skin thinner. And as soon as you stop it, the problem gets worse again. And there is alternatives that can, so that's my thing is people with allergy prone, people with a rosacea problems on the skin, because the skin is reflecting also what's going on inside. So that's where my videos I want to go to is having, like working it from both angles so people can help, both ways. And men too. It's not just women.
Nice. Well, I'll link to your channel in the
Thank you.
description. And Jan, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.